It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. The day I married the man I loved. The man who promised to cherish me through thick and thin. I never imagined that it would end up being the day my world came crashing down. Betrayal, heartbreak, and death. This is not the story I ever thought I'd be telling. But here I am, standing before you, alive, after everything that happened. It feels like a lifetime ago, but the scars are still fresh, the pain still burns, and the fire inside me is stronger than ever. My name is Sarah, and I was married to Daniel for 5 years. Our life together was built on promises, dreams, and love. Or so I thought, but that was before I found out that everything I believed in was a lie. I was blind to the truth, living in a fairy tale, only to discover that my prince had been hiding a monstrous secret all along. It all started when I began noticing the little things. He wasn't coming home on time anymore. His phone was always locked, and he'd get defensive when I asked about his day. I tried to brush it off. Maybe it was just stress at work. Maybe I was overthinking. But something inside me kept telling me that something wasn't right. I should have trusted my instincts. I should have known sooner. Then one fateful evening, everything changed. I walked into our home to find him, with her, the woman he'd been seeing behind my back, the woman he chose over me. In that moment, everything froze. My heart shattered into a million pieces. The person I trusted the most had betrayed me in the most unimaginable way. But what hurt even more was what I didn't know, what I couldn't have known. Daniel had not just betrayed me emotionally. He had betrayed me in the worst way possible. He had planned to end my life. He had been plotting my murder, convinced that I was standing in the way of his so-called perfect future with her. But he underestimated one thing. He underestimated me. The night they tried to kill me was a night that should have been my last. I was stabbed, left to die in our own home, abandoned by the man I loved. I don't know how I survived it. It wasn't just my body that fought for life, but something deep within me, a will to survive, to see justice done, to make him pay for what he did. But just when I thought my story was over, just when I thought my life had been stolen from me forever, something miraculous happened. I woke up. I was given a second chance. It wasn't just a new life. It was a life with purpose. A chance to right the wrongs, to make sure they would never hurt anyone else again. The road to recovery was long and painful. I had to rebuild not only my body, but my entire existence. I had to piece together the shattered fragments of my life, find my strength again, and come to terms with everything that had happened. But I wasn't alone. God gave me a new sense of purpose, a new fire inside me. I was no longer the helpless victim, no longer the woman who had been betrayed. I was the woman who would take control of her own destiny. Now I'm standing here, stronger than ever, ready to bury them both, the man who vowed to love me, and the woman who thought she could take my place. It's not just about revenge. It's about justice. It's about showing them that no one can take your life away from you and get away with it. But trust me when I say this. What I'm about to do will shock you. It will change everything. I've spent days, weeks, months planning this moment. The time for forgiveness is long gone. The time for justice has arrived. And there's only one thing left for me to do. But there's more to this story. More twists, more secrets, more betrayal that I haven't even uncovered yet. The path I'm walking down is far from simple, and the people I thought I could trust are not who they seem. This is just the beginning. You won't believe what's coming next. Stay tuned, because what happens next will leave you speechless. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. The more I thought about that night, the night they tried to kill me, the more I realized just how much I had underestimated Daniel. He wasn't just the man I loved. He was a master manipulator, someone who could twist the truth, turn it into something unrecognizable. For years, he had made me believe I was the problem. He made me feel like I was overreacting, like I was imagining things, when all along, he was the one hiding a dark secret. But what truly shook me was the woman he had chosen over me. Her name was Rachel. At first, she seemed harmless enough, just another face in the crowd. I had no idea she was the one who would eventually lead me to the darkest moment of my life. I can still picture her face the first time I saw her, smiling that cold, calculating smile as she stood beside Daniel, like she owned him. I never thought it would end like this. Me, betrayed, almost killed, and her, standing there, ready to take everything I once had. After I woke up from the attack, I was consumed by one thought. How could I let this happen? How could I let them destroy me like this? My body was healing, but my heart and mind were a battlefield. I spent weeks in the hospital, but every day felt like a constant reminder of how fragile life is. Every time I closed my eyes, I could still see Daniel's face, the man who once promised me forever, and Rachel's eyes, full of smug satisfaction. They thought they had won, that I was out of the picture for good, but I wasn't. I refused to be a victim. The first thing I did when I was able to leave the hospital was to start gathering the pieces of my life. I reached out to old friends, people who had been there for me before, people who didn't know the truth, but still believed in me. They were shocked when they saw me, shocked that I was alive, but even more shocked by the anger that had taken root inside me. They could see it in my eyes. They knew what I had planned. It wasn't just about taking back what they had stolen from me. It was about making sure no one ever underestimated me again. The more I thought about what Daniel and Rachel had done, the more I realized that it wasn't just a betrayal of me. It was a betrayal of everything we had built together. Our love, our marriage. Everything had been a lie. I had been his pawn, and now I was going to make sure he paid for it. But the plan wasn't easy. It wasn't simple. I couldn't just walk into their lives and demand justice. No, I had to be careful. I had to play it smart. I spent months watching them, observing every move they made. They thought I was weak, that I had given up, but I was just waiting for the perfect moment to strike. I started with Daniel. I began digging into his past, looking for anything that would expose the real man behind the mask. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about exposing his lies, his manipulation, everything he had done to get away with hurting me for so long. I uncovered things that shocked me, secrets, people he had used and discarded, betrayals I had never imagined. The more I found, the angrier I became. But Rachel, she was another story. She wasn't just some woman who had come into his life. No, she had been planning this for years, making sure she could get what she wanted, no matter who she had to hurt along the way. I started to see the pattern, how she had wormed her way into our lives, how she had pretended to be my friend, pretending to care about me, while all along, she was scheming to take my place. She was calculating, ruthless, and she didn't care who she had to hurt to get what she wanted. The more I learned about her, the more I realized just how dangerous she was. But that only made me more determined. I wasn't just going to bury them. I was going to expose everything. I was going to make sure they could never hurt anyone again. But the closer I got to the truth, the more I realized that they weren't just going to let me walk away from this. Daniel and Rachel were a powerful team, and they would stop at nothing to protect their secret. I started getting threats, anonymous calls, messages, even people watching me from a distance. They thought they could scare me. They thought they could intimidate me into giving up. But that was their mistake. I wasn't afraid anymore. Fear had no place in my life. I had already been to hell and back, and nothing they could do could scare me now. I was done being the victim. I was done being the one who was hurt. Now it was time for them to feel the weight of their actions. I knew I had to act fast. The longer I waited, the more they would plot and scheme against me. And so, I put my plan into motion. Every step had been carefully thought out, every detail accounted for. I wasn't going to leave anything to chance. I would use their own lies against them, turn their world upside down, just as they had done to mine. But just when I thought I had everything under control, something unexpected happened. Rachel made a mistake. She let her guard down, and I finally had the evidence I needed. The smoking gun. The proof that would destroy everything she and Daniel had worked so hard to build. I was ready. But just as I was about to confront them, something stopped me. A twist I hadn't seen coming. Something that could change everything. I won't give you the details just yet, but trust me when I say this. The next part of this journey is going to shock you. It's not over. Not by a long shot. And when the dust settles, the final truth will come to light. Stay with me, because what happens next will leave you breathless. The moment I thought I had it all figured out, everything I had worked for, all my planning, started to unravel in a way I never expected. Rachel, in her usual arrogance, had let slip a key detail that I thought I had already accounted for. But the mistake she made wasn't just careless. It was a signal that something far bigger was at play, something neither she nor Daniel could have foreseen. It took me a few sleepless nights to piece it together. But when I did, my heart dropped. It turned out that Rachel wasn't just the woman Daniel had betrayed me for. She was also in a much deeper, more dangerous game. She had been using Daniel as a pawn in her own twisted plot. The truth was, she hadn't been after him for love or for a relationship. She was after everything we had built together. Her motive, power, wealth, and control. She had been pulling the strings all along, playing both me and Daniel. I was just a distraction, a means to an end. It was almost surreal when I discovered how much she had been manipulating him. The evidence was all there, buried in documents I hadn't seen before. Financial records, secret deals, emails. Everything pointed to a conspiracy far more elaborate than I could have imagined. And Daniel, my husband, the man I thought I knew inside out, had been completely blindsided. He thought he was the one, in control, but he was nothing more than a pawn in Rachel's twisted game. My heart was pounding in my chest as I finally came face to face with Daniel. I'd spent months preparing for this moment, but nothing could have prepared me for the rawness of it all. The anger, the betrayal. It all came rushing back in an instant. But what surprised me the most was the look on his face. It wasn't one of guilt nor regret. It was one of fear. Everything we had, I said, my voice steady, but filled with a quiet fury. It was all a lie, wasn't it? You let her control you. You let her destroy us. And for what? A dream she promised you? Daniel's eyes flickered, and for a moment, I saw a trace of the man I had once loved. But then he quickly masked it, pulling himself together. I didn't know what she was capable of, he muttered, as if that would somehow explain everything. But it didn't. It never could. You still don't get it, do you? I pressed on, refusing to let him off the hook. She was never after you. She never cared about you. You were just another piece to her puzzle. She's been playing both of us from the beginning. His face fell. What do you mean? He asked. But I could see the fear in his eyes. For the first time, I knew he understood that everything he thought he had was crumbling right before him. I handed him the evidence, the proof of her manipulation, the trail of lies she had left behind. I watched as his hands shook as he read through the documents. And I waited. I waited for him to apologize, to feel the weight of his actions. But there was no apology, no remorse, just silence. You were right, I said softly, staring into his eyes. You never deserved me, and you never deserved the second chance I gave you. He looked up at me, his expression pained. I never meant for any of this to happen, but it had. And no matter how much he regretted it now, it was too late. I had learned the hardest lesson of all. You can't change the past. You can't undo the hurt, but you can take control of your future. I didn't waste another second on him. I turned and walked away, knowing that this was the end for me and Daniel. But it wasn't the end of my story. The next step was about confronting Rachel. I was no longer afraid of her. In fact, I had been afraid of her for too long. Now I was ready to bring everything to light. When I finally met her face to face, the tension was palpable. She stood there, confident and unbothered, as if she held all the power. You really thought you could get away with this, didn't you? I said, stepping closer to her. Her smirk faltered for just a moment, and in that brief second, I saw the truth. She wasn't as invincible as she made herself seem. You think you can just walk away from everything you've done, I continued, my voice now cold. You've taken everything from me, my marriage, my trust, my life, but I'm not the one who's going to pay the price for your mistakes. Rachel's bravado quickly turned to panic as I pulled out the final piece of evidence, the truth about her intentions, the lies she'd spun, and the people she had hurt. It was all laid bare. She had nowhere to hide. You won't get away with this, she snapped, but her voice was shaky now. I didn't respond. I just watched. As she crumbled, the power had shifted, and for the first time, I was the one in control. When it was over, I stood there, taking it all in, the weight of everything I had endured, everything I had fought for. It was finally over, but it wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my life. It was about taking back my power, my peace. I had been through the fire, but I had come out stronger on the other side. As I walked away from that moment, from the wreckage of everything they had tried to destroy, I realized that the real victory wasn't in bringing them down. It was in finding myself again, in realizing that no one, no matter how much they hurt you, could ever take away your ability to rise from the ashes. And that's the message I want you to take from this story. No matter how dark the journey gets, you have the power to rise, to rebuild, to reclaim what's yours. I found my second life, and this time, no one was going to take it from me.